FUBAR! FUBAR! FUBAR. So it's very, very exciting. We've got the trailer for Arnold's newest Netflix series, only Netflix series, FUBAR, premiering on May 25th. So I thought in this special episode of Schwarzenegger 101 that I would look at the trailer. I was thinking originally kind of a breakdown, but it's not a breakdown. I'm not saying, oh, he's got the same clothes on in that scene as in that scene, so this is probably what happens. No, I watched the trailer a million times and I thought there's some interesting references here to previous Schwarzenegger works and some other little things which might be quite interesting to look at. Boom. Trying to get as much hype for this as possible. Watch the trailer. It's amazing. I can't wait. May 25th, FUBAR. And in fact, it's so exciting. I've just made a whole, I've made nothing, a whole list of notes. So yeah, I'm going to go through it, and it's awesome. And FUBAR. Okay. Now, of course, breathe. This is notable as being Arnold's very first scripted TV series. He's never done it before, and it's his first kind of serialized TV role since The Apprentice way back when, in the mists of time in 2016. He's had some more recent roles. He appeared in Little Demon. He had Superhero Kindergarten. They were both animated. This is his first scripted live-action TV role since he played Lieutenant Wagner in the 2.5 Men finale in 2015. So it's been a while, and this is just really, really exciting. Also, quickly, in other news, we had the surprise announcement of this film, hopefully, fingers crossed, called Breakout, a prison thriller where he tries to save his stepson who's been in prison, directed by Expendables 4 director Scott, I can't say it, Waugh, and that makes me think maybe we've got Schwarzenegger cameo in Expendables 4? Anyway, so there's all this amazing news, and there's also rumours that Kung Fury is going to come out this year. Who knows, finally. Anyway, so yes, very, very exciting. We're finally moving forward. This also, FUBAR, is probably going to be the closest we get to a True Lies continuation with Arnold. You know, True Lies 2 was floating around for years. It was referenced heavily in The Kid and I, Tom Arnold, the heavy pusher of the project. And then in 2007, when Elijah Dushku was doing Doll's House, there was thoughts maybe she could do a True Lies series. Arnold could make cameos, although he was governor. Never came to anything. So now we've got this. Ironically enough, we've also now finally got a rebooted True Lies series with Steve Howey. So it all comes at the same time. Notably, the third Arnold TV adaptation after Total Recall and Terminator. All the T's. So yeah, very exciting. But here we are. We're back here with the spy, family comedy, domestic terrorism action series. Feels kind of True Lies-y. So it is quite exciting. So we're going to have a little look and see what we see. First of all, on the second page of my notes, we got the poster. This was awesome. This was the very, very first poster featuring Arnold since Dark Fate in 2019. Awesome to see him back on a poster. Awesome to see a project being as promoted as this is. This is really, really awesome. Tagline, first of all, heroes don't retire, they reload. Love it. And there's definitely something about this project that feels expendably. The way it kind of pokes fun at the people involved makes me think of like Wesley Snipes, Why Were You in Prison? Tax evasion. There's something there where they kind of, and this kind of feels that, it's kind of got that energy a little bit. And I thought initially that tagline had been taken from an Expendables film or paraphrased from it, but no, the closest was Expendables 2, which was what most people call hell, they call the retirement home. Similar, and you feel like you could just see that on an Expendables poster. But yeah, I thought that was great. The reload line actually makes me think of Terminator 2, where the 800 gives John the shotgun in the back of the cruiser. Reload! I can't do an Austrian accent. It's one of my many failings. And of course, the reason that we get that imagery is because Cameron wanted to avoid the idea of or the imagery of John as a 10-year-old shooting everywhere with an Uzi or something. So he was just very nonchalant with guns, knew how to use them, knew how to reload. So we get that. Lots of similar imagery on the poster to True Lies, in the idea of he is just a normal man in his little village. Here's some lovely houses out the back. So you've got that kind of domestic setting, and then you've got helicopters and explosions and all sorts of stuff going off, and that is your international terrorism setting. So again, feels very much like that mixture of things that we got with True Lies. The mug as well, world's greatest dad mug. Just for some reason, my mind went to, again, True Lies, where he's got a cup of tea and he's running out of the house to catch Dana on a motorbike, and he gets burnt. That just reminded me of this, except here he's actually being shot at. Of course, the fact that it says dad brings to mind the fact that he's a father again on screen. This is the first time in a roundabout way since Dark Fate in 2019. It gets lots of these little things as a human, as part of that arc of the character. He's got a job, he's got a partner, he's got a son called Mateo. So there's that, and they've got that relationship. He calls him dad. Or we go back to Aftermath in 2017, where again he does have a wife and he has a daughter, handled very differently, because obviously we don't see them in the film. We get kind of home video clips and photos. He carries a photo around, but they die. The whole film is about the aftermath of that and other things. So this is actually dealing with the father-daughter relationship. It is completely different. So it'd be really interesting kind of settling into that. I'm thinking Breakout might have a similar vibe. His stepson in prison, he's got to save him. So maybe we'll be seeing more things like that, where the kids are, starting to come into it a little bit more. So yeah, it's really, really, really exciting. And we've got things like the helicopter imagery. Helicopters have been everywhere in Arnold films. We've had them all over the place. True Lies with Jamie Lee Curtis hanging upside down. Just made that up. Made the stunt more difficult. Escape Plan, Expendables 3, Genesis, all sorts of helicopter imagery. So really, really common imagery we have here. And of course, lovely to see the name back on the poster where it belongs. Okay. Onto the trailer. Watch the trailer first, because otherwise this might be a bit tricky, but hey, I don't mind, but watch the trailer, it's amazing. So we start out with our hero surrounded by thugs, showing off what he can do, and we get the line, "You came alone." Now, that's awful. Now, "You came alone" is a common theme for Arnold. He normally works alone, that's the point. Send him in, commando, when he'll get it sorted. Him specifically working alone has been addressed a couple of times. Kindergarten Cop, Eraser. When I was thinking about it, I think, is it the same lines? Like, in both times he's not working alone anymore, and he says, "I work alone." In Kindergarten Cop, it's, "He works alone, not today." And then in Eraser, I think it's, "Not today." And then I was thinking, is it the same line in both? Have I just missed that? I think I might be wrong. I might be wrong about the Eraser line. But either way, the idea of him working alone is a common thread. And then we get the second line from the thug. "What was your plan?" And Arnold replies, "Kill all of you." I can't do that. "Kill all of you, then leave." And the way he said that, I thought was amazing. I thought it was brilliant. And they get their guns out. Even now, with all our guns out, I'll manage. And it was that line, actually, that made my wife burst out laughing and realise that this might actually be good, which is what I've been trying to tell her. Anyway, that whole scene reminded me very much of the True Lies Truth Serum scene, where he takes the serum and then he starts revealing exactly what he's going to do. And then, "How are you going to do that? You remember my puffs? My puffs? Remember my cuffs? I picked them." Yes, greatest reaction in all of Schwarzenegger film. It reminded me of that, just him sort of saying what he's going to do and then, just doing it. I thought, very, very True Lies. We also see his look here, the beard, and this has been a kind of recent thing that he's lent on a lot. We saw it in Dark Fate, we saw it as Zeus, we even saw it kind of in Iron Mask. He's got a very fancy moustache, if that counts. And you've got things like Escape Plan, Running Man as well. We're leaning on this more and more in recent years, whereas it was really uncommon, and it was normally to make a point or to do something visually in the early years, and now this is becoming kind of a common theme. And we're told that he's the fastest 65-year-old white guy on the planet. Great line. Interesting, of course, because he'll actually be 75 upon the release of the series. I think it's probably for a couple of reasons. One is the whole thing is about him retiring and going into, adventure for himself. Adventure for himself? No. Being adventure for them again, calling them back in after retirement, and it makes more sense if he's 65. It also means that him and his daughter's age is 28. It makes more sense if they are slightly closer in age. And perhaps they're also just worried about the idea of having a 75-year-old leading an action series. They want to make it feel more real, maybe. But the idea of him retiring has been mentioned before. The one I think of is Commando, although then it wasn't to do with his age, it was because, he was an international target, so he hid in the mountains, obviously not very well. But, let's have a look. Yeah, this retirement kind of more ties in with the idea of him being old. And we've looked at that before, and actually when he was 65, so around about the time he was coming out of being governor, so Expendables 2, Escape Plan, Last Stand, they were kind of pushing the idea of him being old. Last Stand particularly, he smashes through a plate glass window, the people inside ask him how he is. How are you, Sheriff? And he goes, old. So it's kind of a theme that we've just been playing with now for the last 10 years. So that's kind of interesting what he was actually doing when he was 65. It's also notable that he has played younger before. Twins, he plays 35 when he was actually about 41, so he has certainly done that, depending on what the story needs. As for him being fast, the one I think of is Terminator, running after Kyle and Sarah after Tech Noir, lots of, powerful running, but usually in a vehicle. And we also have Jingle All the Way, where he chases, he's running faster than Sinbad and says, I could do this all day. So, the idea of Arnold running fast is also quite common. The biggie though, who needs running when you can ride a bike? Very excited by this, I put an exclamation mark, very, very excited. Bikes again, huge visual Arnold cues just jumping out of everywhere. Terminator, Raw Deal, lots of things of him on a bike and in his spare time as well. He actually hasn't ridden a bike on screen since Terminator 3, 20 years ago. So it's awesome to see him back on a bike. We also see him smoking a cigar, again, really, really heavily linked to him as a person and on screen. First time he's actually smoked on screen since Killing Gunther in 2017. So it's really, really cool to get these images back again, just like Expendables does, I think, just poking that a little bit, poking the image. We see him meeting his daughter and he says, Schatzil, which I think means sweetheart. Now this is quite interesting for a couple of reasons. One is he used that phrase on a child or daughter before in The Terminator when he replicated Sarah's mother, copied after killing her and called her sweetheart, and it seems to be a thing that she isn't sure about, maybe never gets called that. So it's interesting that it's here but now in German, and the fact that he's speaking German tells us that the character is specifically Germanic. So don't forget, with Arnold, we have three types of characters. The specifically Germanic ones, the ones that have normally a Germanic name, the accent, maybe it's referenced in dialogue. You have the non-specifically Germanic, the ones that you could play with an American actor, but there's Arnold, so it's obviously Germanic because of the voice. Or you've got the specifically non-Germanic, where he's playing another character of another nationality, usually with the same voice, but not all the time. So here he's actually playing a Germanic character, which is also the first time since Gunther in Killing Gunther. So after, at his retirement party, what you're going to do, how you're going to spend your, I think it's called golden years, and he says, get my wife back. Interesting here is that he's divorced, quite rare for an Arnold character. He's usually in meeting his love interest, which hasn't happened for a number of years, or protecting his wife, or trying to fight for his wife. Maggie had his wife die and then his new wife leave because things were getting a bit tense. But he has been divorced before. Kindergarten Cop, of course, as a sign of the breakdown of his marriage and his life with his focus on Crisp, and also Last Action Hero. Again, another reflection on real life and how it's not all like it is in the movies. So he's definitely had that before. Again, as we said before, it's his first sort of wife-partner role since Dark Fate, if you want to go down that route, or Aftermath, if you want to go down that route. It's also really interesting that Arnold and Maria Shriver separated, not divorced, but separated in 2011, which is 12 years ago. So in this, they say that he's been divorced 15 years and he's actually been separated 12. It feels like they're referencing that, or it's quite on the nose, and they would have been aware of that, which I think is quite interesting. We find out his name is Luke Brunner. Very first Luke he's ever played. Luke is actually an English spelling. The German spelling would be Lucas. But Brunner is a German surname. Both names, weirdly enough, just refer to someone from a specific place. So maybe that's appropriate for a kind of globe-trotting CIA agent that he's got names that relate to different parts of the world. Luke Brunner, remember that. And then, of course, he finds out that his daughter is in the CIA. There's a great bit where he's in calling the CIA with his daughter over the shoulder. The look, that we see it from their perspective, this kind of phone selfie look, really reminded me of Arnold's social media content, where he's filming things, or, he's filming helicopters in the background, but it's always his face like this, and he's showing things. That's what that massively reminded me of. And their relationship as well, where she's swearing and he's telling her not to, all this sort of stuff, massively reminded me of Sarah and Pops' relationship from Genesis. Sarah Connor's seatbelt, all that sort of stuff. And that kind of reminded me of that here, which I loved. Then we get, sorry, this keeps dying. We get dancing with his daughter, very reminiscent of True Lies with his wife, Jamie Lee Curtis, and to Junior as well. And he chastises his daughter for drinking and smoking alcohol and cigarettes. Let us not forget, of course, that Arnold famously played Conan drunk, and also has been drunk or drunk in many films, including Jingle All the Way, where he gives the drink to the reindeer, and he even describes the origin of beer in Twins, the history of it because of the education of the character. Cigarettes, obviously he smokes a lot of cigars on screen. The ones that bring to mind again, True Lies with his fake cigarettes, so you can see behind him, or you think I'm blind, and obviously the T-1000, John asks in Terminator 2, asks the 800 if the T-1000 could turn himself into a pack of cigarettes. No, only an object of equal size. So just little things that make me smile. We've again got that more rebellious daughter, just like True Lies, stealing and running off on a motorbike. So there's again that similar relationship between the two of them. We find out his daughter's name is Emma. This is also unique. His wife was called Emily in End of Days, but not quite, and reminds me of Emma Thompson massively. Again, the name can be German, and it means great, which is interesting considering how good she is at all the CIA stuff, and when you've got Luke just watching her in amazement. Played by Monica Barbaro, I think I'm saying that right, notably appeared in Top Gun Maverick. The original Top Gun I always think is interesting because it combined James Tolkien from Back to the Future with Rick Rossovich from Terminator, which I think was really cool. She also and Monica also reminds me of the love interest from Around the World in 80 Days. His name Monique, which is another way to remember that, so that's really cool. And Luke beats up a guy for shooting Emma in her violin arm. That is her violin arm. He plays a violin himself in Stay Hungry. Maybe it's a fiddle, I'm not entirely sure. And also massively reminds me of the supportive dad in Killing Gunther. That's my little girl! Which it just awesome. That massively reminded me of that scene. Which I thought, there's a scene in a church, a la The Expendables. They talk about how he leads the team, a la Predator and Expendables again. They talk about more issues than Sports Illustrated. Did Arnold do a cover of Sports Illustrated? Of course he did. 1987, with the tagline, the bodybuilder is boffo in Hollywood. I had no idea what that meant, but apparently boffo meant very successful or a hit, which is pretty cool. And the van that gets blown up, very similar to Carl's van. And then we have the Virgin line at the end. I'm running out of battery space, but there's the whole thing about him wanting to marry, and she says, do you think I'm a virgin? I'm 28. Notably, Arnold didn't lose his virginity in Twins until he was 35. Maybe that's why he has a problem with it. And this was also kind of addressed in True Lies, where they talk about, or Tom Arnold talks about how he thinks his daughter's a virgin at 15, but no doubt he's wrong. So it does address some similar issues. Sorry, this kept cutting out. Okay, awesome. FUBAR, check the trailer out. It's going to be amazing. May 25th. Lots of stuff going on. I'm here for any and all questions. FUBAR, 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 and Breakout coming or filming at some point this year. But FUBAR, 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 FUBAR.